We have some breaking news tonight in the Hollywood actors strike, and unfortunately, it's not good news.
Yeah, Mike Rogers just got off the phone and got word from the studios that talks have broken off.
Yeah. And new this morning, strike talks broke off between Hollywood actors and studios. The Studio Alliance says the two sides are so far apart in talks, there's no point in continuing. The Actors Union, on the other hand, slams what they call bullying tactics. Negotiations resumed last week for the first time since the strike started in July. Studios claim the deal on the table just as generous as the one that ended the writer's strike, but actors say that is misinformation.
It's so wrong, and it's so unfair that they walked out of the meeting, and so disrespectful.
SAG AFTRA President Fran Drescher firing back at the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers and its CEO leaders for what she calls corporate greed.
They talk at you. They really don't want to hear what you have to say or why you're saying it.
And welcome back to the Movie Pope podcast. And today is a special episode because we have a previous guest coming back, Andrew Gajadhar. And he was on a few weeks ago to discuss his work with the Carolina Film Network. So be sure to check that out. I'll have that in the description below. But before we dive any further, remember to like, comment, subscribe. And as always, thank you so much for watching. And let's dive in. Andrew, how are you doing so far?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Now, the last time we spoke, like I said, you were talking about the Carolina Film Network. Have there been any developments on your part since we last spoke? I know you mentioned you were working on a film project.
Yeah, just still working on the project. I mean, we're in pre-production, right? Well, technically, we're not in pre-production right now. We're in the stage right before pre-production where we're still securing everything that we need.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, just working on the norm, with everything else in the community.
Gotcha. Well, today's a special episode because I've wanted to talk about this for quite a while, but I haven't found anybody who's been willing or interested to do it. But I did want to talk about the SAG AFTRA strike, just because this is something that's ongoing at the moment, and if I'm wording it correctly, I think this is like the second longest strike in entertainment history.
Yeah, I think the last one that was this big was in like 2007.
Gotcha. Now, I have been doing some research on this, and I've been watching a lot of podcasts and reading some articles. But what I want to do today is I want you to kind of help me understand what's going on with the strike. Like what are their goals and what are both parties, the studios and the guilds are trying to accomplish. So and I'm going to put my ignorance on display. So forgive me for that. But basically, what I understand about the strike is it's all coming down to money, basically, right?
No, not really. It has a lot to do. Yes, a big portion of it has to do with money, but it has to deal with the fact that things in the industry have inflated to a level that has become out of people's control. So that's one of the things that has always been at the forefront of the union, is making sure that its union members are always taken care of and treated fairly. So with it's not just about people wanting more money. It's the fact that you have streaming platforms that are blowing up, and these people have shifted. It's like they've inflated all their costs and things like that, and they're making a crap ton more money on the back end because they've gained so much control over the industry that it's become unfair for like the actors that are they're not seeing the returns that they should. So they're with the addition of online streaming, these global OTT platforms and stuff like that. You have like Netflix and Hulu and HBO or Max and all of this other kind of stuff. It's like they've grown astronomically online. It's not just the theaters anymore. So now you have theaters and these things, touch on a much bigger audience, because the entire world can access them. Whereas, you only have but so many theaters. Yeah, there's a lot of them around the world, but there's only but so many theaters. Now, online streaming, if you think about how much the theaters are and how much the box office is even able to sell, that's a finite number. That really is a finite number. But when you look at online streaming, that's almost infinite, because you have all of these people that can access it, and they're also paying the platforms. But the movies that the actors and everybody else is in, they don't get the back end like that. They don't see the back end the same way that they would see from theatrical releases or anything like that.
You mean so you mean like residuals, right?
Yeah, you're looking at residuals. You're looking at products that come from these things, advertisements. You have AVOD, TVOD, SVOD, all of these different ways that OTT platforms monetize these platforms. They monetize the platform in the best interest of the platform itself. There's no like give in terms of like how much the actors are that are acting in the films and stuff like that are on Netflix. So let's say if it's like a Netflix original, you got union members that are acting in these things, and because of their notoriety, because of their their popularity, and because of how much they're bringing to the table, the OTT platform, they stand to make a way more money because of that. And on top of that, at the end of the day, it's like, if you have a business that's flourishing and flourishing and flourishing, and you have employees that are helping it to flourish, you got to give them some sort of bonus or some sort of raise in order to keep them. That's any business.
Right.
The bigger you get as a business, the more I'd say accessible residuals or some sort of payback to your employees should be. It's like you look at like businesses like McDonald's. That's like a monopoly. It's this big, huge global business, and they paid their workers like pennies on the dollar. And that's where their argument was coming from, wanting more fair wages for what they do as employees. And that's only fair to consider. And so, but they're not unionized or anything like that. But even that's an example of any normal business that should be taking care of their employees or their workers, or the people that are helping them to make all this money. So you have that, and then on top of that, because of the advancements in technology, you also have AI. So now you have AI that's out there using the images illegally of actors now, and that's all over the world. So you have AI generated images of actors that do not have a contract, do not have anything, permission or anything like that for their images. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's more than just the money. It has everything to do with being treated fairly, understanding that people have a right to their image. And so those are the two main things. It's like, yes, being treated fairly with proper wages for the inflated growth that now these OTT platforms and stuff like that have grown to, as maintaining the integrity of their image. And that's a big part that a lot of people are missing, is the AI aspect of it. It's like people stealing their image. I'm not a union member myself, and because of that, that's like one of the only reasons why I'm even allowed to be here right now, because I'm with the Producers Guild. I'm not with the like SAG AFTRA or anything like that, but it does affect me too, because films that we produce, where we could before have, even if it's like a cameo, a stand-in, like any union actor before, now we're limited. Now we can't work on, we can't do signatory contracts, and they're not allowed to work on anything else except for, well, one of the things that they can work on is the television network agreement, where they're able to like go on like talk shows or game shows or host stuff. They can do that. Like if they were let's say you had a union actor, like there was an award show or something like that. Like they can host an award show, but they can't like be involved with it. Like they can't have a film that they're promoting or anything like that, that they've worked on or anything like that. They can only host. Same thing with like talk shows. They can be like a guest on a talk show, or that's why if you pay attention on some like game shows out now, like you see a lot of like actors that are on these game shows and stuff like that. It's because that's the only way they're able to get like paid. That's like some of the only work that they can do right now. So they some things, but very, very limited, very, very, very limited. And so yeah, like I said, it's a harsh reality. Sorry about that. It's a harsh reality that everyone's having to face. But with that being said, you know, it's a lot that goes into it. And that's the reason why, yeah, the writer's strike, they came to somewhat of an agreement, but the actors, they're not having it. They're not having it. It's way too much involved with it. It's a way more complicated situation.
Yeah, because they broke off talks. What was it? 3 days ago?
Yeah.
Something like that. Because I think it was either I think it was Monday. They it was either Monday or sometime last week. They said that they were going back to the negotiating table, and then just this week they broke it off. Do you have any idea, or can you speak about what might have led to them deciding to suspend talks?
Well, it's just they haven't come to an agreement. It's just they weren't having it. It's like the things that are being offered is not fair. It's not. It doesn't make any sense. And at the end of the day, some serious conversations still need to be had. But even when you may have certain members that may think certain things are fair, the leadership is like I said, they're not having it. This bottom line, they're not having it. It needs to be completely fair across the board. So I don't know specifics like that. You know that, what I'm saying, it's not to what has been brought forth as far as what the union is asking for.
Gotcha. So I want to go. I want to back up a little bit because, and please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on this. My understanding is that with the Screen Actors Guild and the AMTP Guild, don't they negotiate with studios and production companies about what's an acceptable rate, like for paying an actor? Like
no, so there's no, they still they still have to negotiate that stuff or whatever, but it's an agreement. For everything across the board. Like you have, like the union itself, like they have standards. And then when you have, studios and stuff like that are not upholding those standards, it's just like any signatory contract. At the end of the day, you have agents that are you have individual agents of actors that they may negotiate certain types of rates or beyond or whatever, but we're talking about standards. We're talking about bottom line standards, and if those bottom line standards are not fair to everyone across the board of what they're asking for, then you can't come to an agreement.
Right.
And one of the things that I know some of these same platforms are doing that shows that they just don't care is that they're trying to cut out all the middlemen. So they're out there, they're buying theaters. They're purchasing things and rights to certain things and stuff like that because they can. They have this massive growth that they've done over the past, I'd say, 10 years. Like they've been able to grow astronomically to a level where the ball has literally been put in their court, and so they're trying to dictate it to their favor. but at the same time that you're trying to dictate it to your favor, you're stomping on the people that are helping you get there. And that's really what's going on. So it's like, if you can't come to an agreement, like I said, you just got to treat it like any other business. Any other business. When you have employees that are like, look, man, I'm giving you my all. I'm doing everything that I can. I'm helping you. Yes, I'm getting paid, but I'm also helping you more than I'm helping myself. But I have a vested interest in your company. I believe in what you're doing, and I appreciate what you're doing, but you got to meet me halfway here. You know, and if I'm going to continue to work for you and I'm going to continue to give you my all, you got to meet me halfway here. And so and if they can't agree to that, that's just what it is. And like I said, it's just the things that have been shown by, you know, these platforms, especially, is that, you know, it's not just Hollywood. Like these are now you traditionally looked at the big six of the studios and stuff like that, but it's no longer the big six. These big OTT platforms are now part of that. They've exceeded that. They've gone beyond that. You have studios now that are partnering with these OTT platforms just for their content to be exclusively distributed on those platforms. So, like for example, you have A24 films. A24 started off as a distribution company, but now what they've done is they've partnered with OTT platforms for exclusivity, so their films can exclusively be shown or distributed on those platforms like Apple TV Plus.
Right.
You know, and that's why when you go on there, that's where you can always see A24 films, and these are multi-million dollar, hundreds of millions of dollar deals that's being made between smaller studios or smaller production houses and these OTT platforms. So they're, like I said, the way that they've monetized everything and the way that they've got these little partnerships, because you have, let me backtrack just a little bit. So you have OTT platforms, and then you have OTT channels.
Right.
And then you have individual ones like that or whatever. So basically the channels are on these OTT platforms. That's why if you go to like Amazon Prime, you can see like Paramount Plus or Showtime and stuff like that. Like those are OTT channels within the platforms.
Okay.
And that's another way that the full big platform of like Amazon Prime has been able to like really cut out a lot of the middlemen and put themselves in a position where they don't even care. It's not just the actors. It's not just the actors. It's not just the studios. They're making big time partnerships with studios that are not your traditional big six. And with those studios, they're negotiating bigger contracts where they know the quality that they bring to the table, where they know that they vet and they have a QC reporting that has to be passed just to be on those platforms. But they're even getting people who are smaller, like people like myself. They're even looking at people like myself to distribute stuff on their platforms, and that's the difference. Before, when it was just the big six, and you got the theaters, you have the big six studios dealing with the theaters, theatrical run, that's something that smaller studios otherwise before didn't have access to. So they couldn't monetize anything with smaller entities like myself. But now with these big OTT platforms, they're not only using the big six, but they're also using smaller studios that also employ union workers, that also employ people who aren't in the union, to get them that's delivering quality content that's able to pass QC reporting to be put on their platforms, whether that's their channels or their platforms. And so it's astronomically made more money for them. And it's not fair for the people all the way that's trickled down that's doing the work itself.
So basically, it would be a win-win situation for them, but for the people who are contributing to it, I mean, they're pretty much getting the short end of the stick, basically.
Yeah, they are. They are.
Gotcha.
Like, if you and I went into business, and we both invested X amount of dollars to start the business, and I'm doing all the work on one end, and you're doing all the work on another end, on a structural, technical side, but I'm still doing all of the legwork, and let's say I helped to build the business, or we together have built the business to be a multi-billion-dollar business, but I'm still getting paid the same amount that I was getting paid when we first started. That's not fair.
Right.
That's basically what's going on. It's like, it's not fair. Like, they're doing the work. They're not doing anything different. They're not delivering any less quality content or performancing of, and it's more than just actors. You got stunt performers, you got voiceover actors, you got all of that stuff. Like, people can't do stand-in, they can't do stunts, they can't do stunt choreography, you can't do singing, you can't do voiceover, you can't do none of that stuff because all of it's part of the strike.
Gotcha. So in terms of actors not being able to do any work, I mean, I remember reading somewhere, and this was like a few weeks ago, because I always thought that that if you got your foot in the door working as an actor or a voiceover artist in in that system, you would be able to make a decent amount of money. But I was shocked to learn that a lot of these actors, they're barely getting by.
Yeah, they barely get by. There's a on a ultra low budget ULB signatory contract. I believe the normal standardized low rate is like $125 a day.
Oh wow.
8 hours. It's like $125 a day for 8 hours. And that's been the same rate for a long time. So people think because you're an actor, a working actor and stuff like that you're worth like millions of dollars. It's not true.
Yeah, because you're paying a lot of money for for other services like agents, representation, that kind of stuff.
You have a lot of stuff that you're investing in yourself. And when you work on that, and that's where these negotiations come in, like, yeah, you can possibly negotiate a higher contract because you're union and this and that, or whatever the case may be. But generally speaking, there are industry standards on every level. And like I said, that's like the lowest standard. And you're looking at like I could go back to McDonald's. It's like you have your first time employees that are like 15, 16 years old coming into the workforce. Yeah, they're going to make just over minimum wage, if not just minimum wage. And then the ones who've been there time and grade, they managerial, whatever, can work by themselves without being scrutinized and stuff like that. Like, yeah, they're going to get paid more money. But generally speaking, that doesn't promise you a big paycheck.
Right. So another thing I want to ask you too, and you mentioned it earlier about the use of AI. That really struck me because now they're using the actor's likeness to with these productions.
Yeah.
And I totally get how it's against the law, and it's against any ethical practice. But but knowing that, why would they resort to that? Like, is that something that they put in the contract or what?
I got a copy of a contract right here.
Okay. I was actually going to ask if you actually could give us an example of that too.
So let me pull. Let's see here. Yeah, name and likeness. Like the production shall have the exclusive right to use and to license the use of the actor's name, photograph, likeness, and or voice by any means in connection with the film and the advertising, publicizing, exhibition, and or other exploitation of the film. And then the actor is granting the producer the right to photograph his or her image and likeness and to record his or her voice, performances, poses, action, plays, and appearances, and to use his or her picture, silhouette, and any other reproductions of his or her physical likeness and connection with the motion picture, whatever the motion picture is.
Mm-hmm.
They have the perpetual right to use and still and motion pictures and soundtrack recordings and records which may be made of his or her voice in or in connection with the exhibition, advertising, exploiting, or publicizing. Let's see here. Oh yeah, which may also be of his or her voice in or in connection with any paraphernalia or products whatsoever associated with such said film and other miscellaneous work performed by the actor, and that contract's in perpetuity. And it's like how that's broken down. I mean, at the end of the day, the actor, when they sign the contract, they're giving only those producers those contracts that they're signing. They're only giving them exclusivity of using their image as it relates to those projects.
Right.
So when you have AI that's out there and they don't have no kind of contract, no kind of agreement, the actor gave no permission, no exclusivity, no rights to anyone to use their likeness in any way, whether that's picture, print, motion picture, video, voiceover, anything, products, paraphernalia, memorabilia, any of that stuff. If they're not giving them any permission for any of that, it's illegal. That is illegal because the AI folks have been using people's likeness for monetary gain. You got, for instance, you have these memes that are out there, these little videos that are on YouTube and stuff like that on people's channels.
Yeah.
Use AI to make some comical or some something that's derogatory with the likeness of an actor.
Oh, you mean like those deep fakes?
Yeah, those little deep fakes and stuff like that. But they're monetizing that. YouTube is making plenty of money off of that, millions of dollars off of that. All these other platforms that do the same, that little commercials and all this other kind of stuff, they're using their likeness illegally, and they're making millions of dollars because of plays and because of how many plays. It's like plays per 1,000 or clicks per 1,000. So I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, that's what they're doing, and they're making a lot of money off of it. And regular people who have no relation, no contract with these actors are also making money off of it, because when they monetize their channels on whatever, they're making money from it too.
Well, that's really, really scary because that because when you say that, it kind of reminded me of when they used a hologram of Michael Jackson for a concert. I think this was like several years back.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm assuming in that situation that was kind of different, right? Because that was done. I mean they got the legal clear to do that, as opposed to what you're seeing right now, where it's like you could have Arnold Schwarzenegger in a dress, singing "I Feel Pretty," and and they're getting away with it, right?
Yeah, and it's not right. It's not right at all.
So
even unless they agree with it, and I guarantee you they're not agreeing with it.
No, I can't imagine any of them would. But so I mean, but have actors or I guess I should say have these union members, have they like been successful in stopping this, or is it just one of those things where it's like it can't be stopped? It's just one of those things that they're gonna have to deal with.
No, that's one of the things that's on the negotiating table, is that if I'm not mistaken, is that when people monetize these things, or when they're putting their image out there and their likeness out there without their permission, that they can take them to court. At the end of the day, they need to be able to legally take them to court.
Right.
because a lot of that stuff is hard to track. It's like, how do I track who's doing this? It's AI. How do I track who's doing it when it's AI? Well, you should be able to take the AI companies to court. The companies where people that the software of which people are able to do this, the companies of which this comes from, needs to be able to be taken to court. They need to be able to be held liable for those damages.
Right, right. Because I'm thinking in my mind, it's all just in good fun. It's just something to, for everybody to just look at and chuckle at for a bit. But, but it's so much more serious because, that's the potential income that a certain actor could gain that's lost because of that act.
Yeah.
So
That's you have like, for instance, you have the writers of Game of Thrones. Like they've taken I think Chat GPT to court because they used their writing that they did for Game of Thrones in their programming for their AI to rewrite scripts and stuff.
without their knowledge.
Yeah, without their knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're if I'm not mistaken, they're in a court battle right now.
And that was one of the and that was a huge sticking point when the WGA went on strike, right?
Absolutely.
So another thing I wanted to ask you too. I mean, how has this affected the Producers Guild and the directors?
Again, when you can't work on productions, everything stops. Everything stops. On the producing side, we have a lot more things that we work on. So, like I said, for instance, when you have television, when you have episodic filming, when you have reality shows, a lot of different things, we can still produce. Oh, excuse me. We can still produce because our jobs aren't under that same union. They aren't under the same guilds or anything like that. So it affects us indirectly, mostly because of the type of work we're able to do and not able to do. But generally speaking, I can still produce. I can still be a producer. I can still work.
Right.
No, it's similar to the actors. Like, the actors can still work. They're just very, very limited in what they can and can't do. And they can't promote, like I said, they can't promote any of the projects that they've done.
So
even ones that they've already done, they can't even promote those.
Right. So would you say that the options are limited more for actors or producers, or is it kind of the same equal level?
Oh, absolutely, it's the actors. They're the ones that are fighting right now, and it's our job to support them. That's the short end. The short end of it is that it's our job to support them because we're the ones who have direct relationships with them, and we're the ones who hire them. I mean, we're the ones who help them to get employment. And if we're not doing our due diligence on our end, if we're not, talking to the studios that we work for, if we're not voicing, on their behalf, we're not doing our jobs effectively. We're not. That means that if we're not for them, then we're definitely not. We shouldn't act like we're against them. So like I said, I mean, it affects us, but at the same time, it only affects us more when we don't do our jobs, when we do on their behalf.
So and I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second. So let's say for instance, if the writers are on strike, sorry, not the writers, if the actors are on strike, but you as a producer, I mean, obviously you would still be able to do your job. I mean, if and this is hypothetical, if a studio exec just came to you and said, "Hey, we need to get production up and running again. We need to do this 8-episode series within the next few weeks." Wouldn't it be a lot more efficient to just use AI to generate the actors to just get the job done. I mean, what would that, how would that situation play out?
It wouldn't play out.
It wouldn't. Okay.
Yeah, it can't play out. That's illegal. None of
Even
it. Nope.
even if the studio's like, well, we'll find a loophole in that, in that language in the contract to kind of push this through.
But that's the thing. There is no loophole.
Okay.
There's no loophole to get around something like that. That's basically making an animated film. Like Beowulf.
Right.
Beowulf, and it's like the actors, they weren't like real people.
Right.
It was all CGI and stuff like that. That's no different from making a CGI film. You still have to get permission to do that. You can't. There's no loopholes for that. Even if you're using somebody's likeness, or you're using their voice, or the likeness of their voice, or the likeness of their face, or any part of them, you need permission to do that. There are no studio executives that would do that. There's none. There's none. That wouldn't even be financially in their interest. That wouldn't be in their interest at all. That would just be dumb.
So obviously that's what's preventing them from kind of like going that route, right?
Yeah, because it's illegal.
Gotcha.
You can't do that. It's illegal. They can try to go through whatever they want to go through, and that's the thing too, because I am a studio executive to my own studio, because I executive produce films as well. But at the same time, it's like there's not the amount of paperwork that goes behind producing a film is ridiculous. You have to sit down and put together so much paperwork, and before you can even get to that point, you have to have a script. You have to, you got a writer's strike, you ain't gonna have no script.
Mm-hmm.
Have work that's being done within the studio or whatever. People ain't gonna work for the studio if they're not getting taken care of. At the end of the day, no project is going to get greenlit if it's a union film, if it's a signatory film. If it's a non-union film, you're going to be hiring a whole bunch of non-union people, because nobody from any union is going to work on it because they can't.
Right.
So it's not in their financial interest to do any of that stuff. And the only way that they would even be able to get green light is through private funding.
Gotcha. And that can and that in itself can take quite a while if you're operating outside of the studio framework. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
so another thing I want to ask you too. So have you spoken with friends who are members of the guild? Like,
Oh, yeah.
What do they have to say about this whole thing?
It's kind of the same thing. Like, believe it or not, a lot of these actors are regular working people. Like they're not just, on the screen. Like there's a lot of time between the time that they're working on the screen and not. So, they're out there working regular jobs, doing what they can to get by, making money, because like I said, there's certain things that they can and can't do. They can't go and just make an appearance on something. They can't. And it sucks because there's rules. And it's like, we have rules that we're supposed to abide by too, within the guilds that we're a part of. The Writers Guild, the DGA, the WGA, the Producers Guild, which the Producers Guild is not more or less of a guild like the DGA and the WGA, but nonetheless, I mean, like we still have standards and rules that we have to go by, and if anything that we do is against that, then we can lose, our affiliation in a heartbeat. So it wouldn't even be smart for us to go against the grain. I won't say go against the grain. It wouldn't be smart for us to do anything in opposition of those rules because we want to keep working. But like I said, the actors that are out there that we know that are in the union, more than the actors, is my original profession. When I came into the industry, I came in as a fight and stunt choreographer. We can't work either. We can't work on any films. So
Right.
it's, I have friends that are singers. I have friends that are stunt performers, choreographers, all of that stuff. None of them can do any work right now, except for, outside of the industry.
And not to ask too stupid a question, but do they also feel that they're not being treated fairly by these studios when they are working on these productions?
Absolutely. It's not just the actors. When they talk about the union, these are all union members.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, these are all union members. It's not just actors. They're all union members, and they're definitely all feeling it.
Yeah, and I mean, a part of me can understand why they're doing it because because obviously it's not. I mean, this job, is not as glamorous as it seems because because like most like most people, we only see the end product. We don't really. It's kind of like we don't really see how the sausage is made. We only get the end product but I mean, I've like I said, I've been watching podcasts and reading articles and stories. I mean, these guys are putting like. These guys are putting close to 18, maybe 20-hour work days, and they're working 7 days a week just to get these things out. So it totally makes sense that they're asking for that kind of compensation. But and if you don't want to answer this, I totally understand. Do you think you can speak as to why these studios are a bit reticent to kind of grant what what the SAG and AFTRA are asking for?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So given given what what we've discussed about what actors and guild union members are having to go through, I mean, is there a reason why these students are a bit no students these studios are a bit reticent to or hesitant to try to accede to their demands? Like, is it just greed? Like, do they just feel like I don't want to lose money to pay these actors for like a certain project? Do you think maybe you could speak to that?
I mean, really, it's just, the bottom line is it's just greed. When you have, like I said, when you've grown as big as you have, like when these studios and stuff like that, the amount of growth that they've had and the diverse way that they've monetized their business structure, they're doing everything they can to say, I don't need you. At the end of the day, that's basically what they're saying. They're spitting in their faces and they're saying, I don't need you.
Mm.
And that's what it boils down to. Treating people fairly, giving people fair wages and stuff like that is, it's important for any business. And people not budging or people trying to, it even being a question is because it's not like people are asking for some astronomical thing, so it's like at the end of the day, the only thing you can equate it to is greed.
Right, because they're not, yeah, because these actors, they're not asking for like money to buy a yacht or a private airplane. They just want enough to provide for their families. Because just like anybody else, I mean, they've got kids. They're trying to put them through school. Yeah,
you have a standard of living. I have a standard of living, even if I worked at, I keep saying McDonald's. I'm just going to use that as an example, but even if I worked at McDonald's, I have a standard of living. When the economy inflates, then I'm not going to be able to afford that standard of living unless the place that I work can accommodate that. You know, that's no different. It's no different when you're out there acting or working at as a union member. When the inflation is real. Inflation is real, life is real, and the demand to have the demand of having a lifestyle that you're able to afford is real. And people aren't out there making millions upon millions of dollars like people think. They're not. It's a job. It's a job that should come with health care. It's a job that should come with, proper, etiquette and professionalism. And that's all they're really asking for. And, people are, when you have greedy bosses that don't really care, they just don't care.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
We're not even bosses. when you have people that you're contracted to work with, or that you're working alongside as an agreement,
Mhm.
an agreement, and they're not fairly living up to that agreement, then then that's where those discussions need to be made.
Yeah, because they're not honoring the terms of the contract
Yeah,
then.
they're not.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So do you anticipate that there's going to be like a shift to try to, rework these contracts, or to kind of change the wording of the contract that's going to be more towards towards the actor's favor? Or do you think that's just one of those things that's, that's not going to change?
I think I mean, I don't think they really have a choice. I believe it'll happen. I just think that how it happens is what's important. And also I believe that, like I said, everybody else who's not directly involved with those actions and that negotiating table needs to support the people that are being affected the most. And I wholeheartedly think that colleagues of mine, as well as people that I know who aren't part of the union that are being affected, should definitely show their support.
That was nothing I was going to ask. For people who are witnessing this and they want to offer their support, how can they go about doing that?
One of the things about it is that the what's it, the court of public opinion is a very strong one. When you have people out there in the industry that are not part of the union, also willing to say, hey, this is not right, and standing up and advocating and stuff like that, that voice of public opinion can get a little bit stronger. And in addition to that, you have just a lot of problems when it comes to what we can try to do, so that makes it even worse, which is why we need to advocate even more. Because like I said, these actors, if we were to develop programming, non-union programming, or this, that, and the third, and we try to whatever get these workers to act, they can't. They're limited.
Right.
Like, how can we help? We have to look for different solutions to be able to help. Where, you may even have some, and this is something that I could even foresee. You may even have some actors that may end up, having to, or somewhat feeling like they're being forced to leave the union just to work. Like there's like indie projects that they want to work on and stuff like that they can't because they're part of the union. But it's like, how much more is this going to go? And that's where the studios and stuff are just like not caring, because they're like, we don't need you. We don't need you. If you want to quit the union, go ahead and quit the union. But forget that. And that's just, I hate to say it like that, but it's just, that's what it looks like. That's what it appears like. It appears like when you can't have not just a conversation, but when you can't come to a good solution with people who are trying to negotiate with you and being fair and consistent, that just to me looks like you don't care. So it's a lot. It's a lot to consider, and it's a lot that we can try to do, but there's a lot that we're very, very limited in doing.
Do you think that might happen? Actors might decide, what, it's too costly to stay in the union, so I'm just going to opt out.
I don't know. That's something that's a personal decision that people are going to have to make. But I believe that there's reasons why they're with the union, though. Because like I said, they get benefits.
All right.
The benefits of being a union member as a working actor heavily outweigh outside channels. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna quit the union, so I lose all my benefits and then go work on some indie films where I'm hoping to be taken care of.
Right.
It's like, that doesn't really make any sense. But at the same time, people do have a breaking point. And people may also look at what they have and start reconsidering what they have in the businesses that they may be invested in. Because you also got a lot of actors out there that may be invested in other ventures. You
Right.
know, they wanted to retire and then go, push more on the ventures that they're invested in. You just never know their personal thoughts and feelings and opinions. And like I said, you may have some union actors that are like, they don't really care. They're just like, I just don't care. I just want to get back to work. Like, what are they talking about agreeing with? Like, if I could vote, I would vote to say, let's go ahead and take that because I just want to get back to work.
Mm-hmm.
Some people that are just like that. But at the end of the day, it's how you want to be treated and what you're willing to stand for.
Gotcha. Well, I definitely want to say first off that I definitely support and sympathize with SAG AFTRA. So, I definitely want them to get a fair treatment that they deserve. So I'm definitely with them on that. Andrew, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to come onto this podcast to chat about that because when I brought it up with other guests or other potential guests, they just shut me down and they said, "Well, that's something I can't speak of." So I really, really can't thank you enough for for taking the time to chat with me about that.
Yeah.
Do you and I might have asked.
Everything that I've said is publicly viewed. So
Yeah.
I'm not even saying any like intricate things. Like I can't discuss anything about specifics being negotiated or specifics or anything like that. But I can definitely, as a producer, I can advocate and say my own opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I don't belong to any union, so I mean, I know how I feel. I know what I see, and I know crookedness when I see it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, if we can get more people to, stand up and just say, hey, we love the product that you guys are producing, but you gotta do something to help these actors out because we want these things to keep coming, Andrew, I know I might have brought this up earlier, but do you know if there are like any specific sites or links that we can go to if we want to maybe find out more or offer our support to SAG AFTRA at all?
There's actually you can actually contact SAG AFTRA directly, and they either post updates or you can go on like there's questions that you can do like Q&A with them to ask them specifically what you can do to show support, and they'll answer. So you can directly contact them.
All right, and I'll put it down in the description below. But
Yeah.
Andrew, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk about this, and I appreciate your candidness on this issue.
Very well.
All right. Well, that's gonna do it for our episode. Let us know down in the comments what you think of the strike. Are you sympathetic with the demands of the union, or do you just not care? Let us know in the comments below. But other than that, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this episode, and have a great day. Bye.